Hello, I'm the Midnight Wanderer, and these are a few small thoughts on the Beginner's Guide. The Beginner's Guide is a nice, simple game by Davey Wreden, the brain behind the Stanley Parable, which should make it clear exactly what's in store. The game is narrated by Wreden as he tells the story of him and a fellow game developer named Coda, starting from when they first met to the last time they spoke, and it's an emotional ride to say the least. The game takes a look at Coda's frame of mind, of Wreden's reaction to said frame of mind, and the way the two connect in the end. It's a fantastic little story with an amazing premise and a very solid execution, and the quirks in the story extend to the gameplay itself, which is something I always like in my games. The gameplay, for as much as I like it, is incredibly cut and dry. Every level, a term I use incredibly loosely, is a different little game that Coda made when he was an amateur game developer, and it definitely shows. The most interaction you ever get with these games are moving and occasionally picking a little dialogue option, but the game really doesn't need much more than that, since the game wants to focus on the story rather than the gameplay. Overall, the gameplay, while nothing special, takes you from point A to point B in the story, and that's really all it needed to do. The fact that this game has full narration is something that initially turned me off. I normally don't like the concept of a game that tells me exactly what to think, be it one that tells me a story as I walk through a wasteland, telling me a story as I walk through a wasteland, or those incredibly rare occasions where it's just one that tells me a story as I walk through a wasteland. Luckily, the Beginner's Guide is completely different. While the narration of the game does tell you exactly what to do and what's going on, it allows the player to experience enough that it doesn't feel pointless and redundant. On top of that, Wreden as the narrator works as his own character and as the primary catalyst for the player. While you experience the game, Wreden states what he thinks the game means, something that helps to establish the world and the character of Coda. Overall, the narration is a welcome change of pace from most other narration in games, and it definitely helps to set the mood of the story incredibly well. The Beginner's Guide has a lot to say on a lot of things, specifically on creativity and external validation. Now, the creativity one is one I can relate to personally, since it talks a lot about dwindling interest and passion in something as time goes on, and that's something you can probably tell I relate to just by looking at my upload schedule. But external validation is another beast entirely, and is one that will take a bit longer to explain. You see, external validation is something that makes it so you can only really feel happy when getting praise from others, and it's something that takes a toll on everybody involved. If you praise a person with external validation problems, you just feel a very negative addiction to praise, but if you don't give it to them, then they start to hurt, as you are depriving them of their only source of joy. Being a friend with a person with external validation is incredibly difficult and time-consuming, and sometimes they'll do really stupid things, and at that point, a person with validation issues may seriously just step back and wonder if they actually have friends, or if they're just talking with them out of a sick sense of obligation or fear. If everybody secretly wishes to have never known you, it's... Sometimes it's just a struggle, just going day to day, just non-stop questioning these things. Just, are my suspicions confirmable? Will they one day tell me that this is the truth? Am I overthinking it? Am I a terrible friend for even thinking this? I'm sorry. I need a minute. The Beginner's Guide is a fantastic little game. With such a simple and interesting premise and its outstanding narration, it's a game that I will probably never get sick of. And with its short runtime and amazing replayability, I've played the game more likely than I want to admit, and I think that for $10, this game is totally worth it.